How is again? Another beautiful day, though. It's cooler today, and yeah, we're still locked down. These coronavirus chronicles still continues. But like, don't be upset about it. Like I got a message from a friend I've been friends with a long time there in Italy, and she was pretty upset about what's going on there. And I've heard it from other friends in Italy. Italy has gone, because of this coronavirus thing, literally back to full fascism again. It's awful. And that's not the nature of the Italian people or Italian society at all. But they basically, the same forces in Italy that originally put Mussolini into power have remobilized now and basically used coronavirus or the corona lockdown thing to implement the same social orders again. And the Italian people are prisoners in their homes, and the where under the time of fascism and Mussolini, it was the military and the army who upheld the dictatorship by Mussolini. This time, it's the medical professionals and the big pharmaceutical companies who, just like in Ireland back in the day, blackmailed Italian politicians to basically make sure that everyone has to have such and such a vaccine or such and such a chemical in their system, or Italy doesn't go back to being Italy, and it's awful. It's awful. And the fact that the same forces like the Pope, the Vatican, are rowing in behind the Italian government's agenda on this, in just the same way they rode in behind Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. They will go with who can ever assure them power, because the Vatican is a state within a state. It doesn't operate under international law. It goes by whoever it can actually get power from in whatever country they're in. Now, yes, this is what's going on. Like, we're hearing stories now, more of them coming out in England, of neighbours publicly shaming a woman or person who lives on their street who didn't come out at 8 p.m. to clap the doctors and nurses. This is it's not, like I said, it's no longer a mystery what happened in Germany in the 1930s. We're living in it now. Now, the whole thing of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's an awful lot of truth to that. Okay, so when you're pushed into, like, let's talk about going forwards. Okay, when this thing is over, my prediction is that just like 9/11, you'll have an initial hysteria. Remember, like in 9/11, when that happened, you practically had to get on planes nearly naked to get onto a flight. And now they even let you on with shoes if they're soft shoes. And even like soft, like dress shoes, I get onto planes no problem with like, not once they're not hard like boots. I get on planes no problem now, and I often walk through with jewelry and everything on me, and even accidentally, sometimes I have change in my pocket, and that goes through as well. So it peters out after a while. So don't be getting caught up in what the initial reaction by the control system is as being the long term agenda. Like, so it's not the security is not as vicious at airports as it used to be. It's been tapered down a lot. I can remember when I would fly from Ireland to England, I'd have to go through security in Ireland and in England. And if I was changing flights in England, through security again. A couple of times I had to go through security 3 times in 2 hours to get to, say, somewhere in Europe or in America. And that stopped now. Now you just do it once. So I think initially, you had Michael O'Leary, the boss of Ryanair, which is Europe's biggest airline, fortunately based in Ireland, so he has a lot of leverage in this country. He can basically, he's the boss of the biggest airline in Europe, so he can basically boss the Irish government around. And he's kind of like a Trump type character. And he told them that Ryanair, initially the Irish government had a stupid idea that if they allow flights to happen, that every seat in between must be empty. So you'd have you in your seat, and then the next seat empty, and the next seat someone in it. That would lead to something like 40%, 30, 45% loadings on aircrafts, if you include all the other seats. And that's not, you can't make money on it. Well, not their model, their business model of charging low fares. You can't make money on that. So He said, "Forget about it. We're not going to fly. I'm not going to fly." And he made a suggestion, which is probably what I think will happen, that people have to wear a face mask on the plane. I've no problem wearing a face mask on the plane. It doesn't bother me. Now I know the people out there going, "It's one more thing of taking our rights away." But look, you have to look. Don't Being a hero is not always an indication of being a strong person. Sometimes being a hero, like you see with these activists types, they're forced to cry and stuff like that when the police arrest them, and to squeal on their friends. Weak people are generally full of bravado and are very devious. So, like, they may say things like, "Well, I'm not wearing a mask," but when they go on a flight, they will. You learn about people. You learn, like I said, this is the greatest education we'll ever have. You learn about people when they're frightened, and you'll also learn about people when they think they're getting on the winning team. So, like when there's a smear campaign against you, the thing I always do is pretend I'm defeated, and that way you find out who your true friends are and who the weasels are who jump ship, and then you have purified. It's a very, that's a good Luciferian way of. People don't know what Luciferianism is. That's a Luciferian way of doing the art of war. You have to sometimes be an actor in order to find out purity and truth and clarity, and that's what Luciferianism is, seeking clarity. And an approach to this would be not to go. I'll get on a plane. I'm not refusing to wear a face mask because you might never fly again. You know, where be you know. I always say be compliant, but call them a prick inside your head. Don't don't be stupid. Like there's people now doing stupid things. Like I'm going to take on the cops and have a riot downtown. You don't need a police record for this. You don't have to ruin your life going forward. I always look at travelers, Irish travelers. They're like now parked all over this country in group, ignoring uh, social distancing laws, and the cops aren't even bothering them. Why? Because they ignore the law. See, the law is 90% about the law says you must do this, and people do it thinking it's a law when it's not a law. And a lot of it's not on the statute books, and a lot of things like this will be rolled out regarding this whole corona thing, but they won't. They might be passed as bills, but they might not get through to the High Court, and they might not be enforceable. So a lot. That's because all the government needs for people to know is they're afraid that it's a law, and then where as someone else goes, it's probably not a law, but I'm not going to test. That's how I am. I could probably break social distancing now, but I won't do it because I don't need the hassle of it. And that's the difference between wise and bravado. So it's like, will I get on a plane if I have to wear a face mask? Absolutely. I take my shoes off if I have to sometimes. Take my belt or my braces off, my suspenders off. And that's why I actually started wearing suspenders, because it was easier to get these off at an airport than a belt and back on. And so it was like, and since then I've been wearing suspenders, and it's helped my posture and my lower back no longer wearing a belt, and the suspenders, like that was something, what I mean, like it was like a ray of sunshine in the darkness. Because of those laws, I adapted, and because of the adaptation, I would never go back to wearing a belt. I wear these very, very good quality suspenders or braces, whatever you call them in your country, and so it actually helped me, you know. And so I don't want to be sitting on a plane and people looking at me if I cough if I don't have a mask on me. And being asthmatic, I'm very prone to allergies, and planes are full of them. So you'll often hear me on these videos coughing. That's like an allergy. It's like a bit of pollen that gets into my mouth. And it's the same if I was on a plane. The last thing I need is someone looking at me when I don't have a mask on. I want to I want to be left alone as much as possible in doing my daily business. And so don't be getting into your head that what's it like now is going to be how it's going to be forever. This is a big problem we have as humans, that we tend to get stuck in a moment and you can't get out of it. And if you've done nothing wrong, Like I had two psychotic women on Facebook spread a lie. One of them was an erotomanic who thought she was going to be my soulmate, and because I wasn't, they spread a lie that I was wanted by Interpol, and well, would I be even here if I was? Would I be on? You know what I mean? Would I be traveling all over the world if I was? And yet, that's nothing to fear. I don't break laws. I don't even have well, I have a parking ticket. I have a no, I went through a red light years ago. But if it's not true, then don't worry about it. So why risk doing things that will make your life harder? Why risk that? Why risk that? Why risk doing things that make your life harder when you've nothing to worry about? So get on the plane with the face mask. There'll be other now. People are saying, what about the mandatory vaccine? The only place I'm hearing mandatory vaccine from is from people in the alternative scene who've been screaming about it for years, and often based on a Christian thing. The mark of the beast, the mark of the beast. They're going to put the chip inside. You're already chipped through everything, a credit card and everything. The mark of the beast. No, so just for mandatory vaccines, yeah, if you join the military, you'll probably have to take a mandatory vaccine. And many other things, like more maybe working in the healthcare service. I don't know about that. But otherwise, they won't have to make it mandatory. People will run for salvation. The average, you see what the average normie is like. They don't think, they react. This is why they impulsively join things and end up destroying their lives, because they don't sit back and act. They want to be part of the winning team. And in the minds of the average normie and the meat, the 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 winning team is the one that gets the vaccine. You see, that's how they think. And I'll hate to say it, that's not me and people like me and you. That's most of the world out there, and they'll gladly run to it. And there'll be enough profit in that for the pharmaceutical companies, and enough power in that, for the governments to say, we've successfully vaccinated 98% plus of the population. It was a great success. They don't care about the 2% or the 5% of us who won't do it. They just don't care, and so you get that out of your head. So it's, and also the only other side I'm hearing about mandatory vaccines is from the likes of Bill Gates. Bill Gates only has as much power as we give him. And if you look around the internet, he is universally despised. For every person that says he's a great guy, there's just as many who say he's a piece of shit. Now, politicians are morons generally, but they hire spin doctors and political strategists who look at the internet and look at videos like this, and they see it and they go, well, this Irish asshole, he gets 5 or 6 thousand views a video, so it's not a lot, but uh, if a lot of them are in Ireland, that could be a lot of votes. That could, maybe ones are not watching or hearing about it, and then they say, let's not, so or they say, did you see the slamming that Bill Gates got on the internet by someone? And then they'll say to their politicians, it's mainly because Gates was talking about the mandatory vaccine, and the spin doctor will say to the politician, don't push that one. So I haven't really heard any politicians saying mandatory vaccine, not in Ireland, not that I'm aware of. Maybe not the ones in power anyway. So a lot of that is a hex you're putting on yourselves. See, this is the thing. When a politician or a spin doctor or a marketing agency or an advertising company puts something out there that you might fear or like, what you do is you end up self-hexing. This is how it works. You self-hex yourself. So if they plant the seed of mandatory vaccine, everyone's going, oh, mandatory vaccine, mandatory vaccine, oh, mandatory vaccine. You're self-hexing yourself. Well, it's much better to say something like, yeah, good luck with that, fuck that, and ignore it once. And you see, what happens is and then what happens? The ones who are going, I'm not getting the needle, I'm not going, oh wait, I'm fighting the mark of the beast, this kind of thing. The NPCs and the meat will go, who love the government and love the pharmaceutical companies and love Bill Gates will go, these people are all retarded, they're all morons. You see, you set them off as well. You develop enemies. You give yourself enemies when you self-hex yourself. The best thing is to do is to play like what I do is pretend you're defeated. And stoke it up, and then walk away and pretend you're defeated. And what happens then is you get to see the true nature of the beast and the enemy you're dealing with. If there's an element of decency and sanity there, it comes out. If there's an entity, if there's treachery, evil, and wickedness there, it also comes out. And that way you have a better vista of the battlefield, and therefore you can determine where you go from that point on. And this is the classic art of war, the rules of engagement. It works in magic and psychology just as much as it works in the battlefield. Pretend to a stronger enemy you're weaker, and pretend to a weaker enemy you're stronger. And then what you do is you just sit back and then see, and then the natural laws of the universe then take fold. And you can always tell when someone is defeated when they can't let a grudge go. Like what a visceral, when they're filled with revenge and filled with hatreds, that's a sign of being defeated. So if you're always full of hatred, for that's a sign of defeat. Like there's just no. You're full of revenge and hatred. You've lost. If you look at these, like you've lost. You've lost. And you're a defeated man or woman. Where if you don't give a fuck and move on, or after after maybe an initial thing, which is normal, then you obviously you're rebuilding. What you're doing is, see, when you're full of a fear or hatreds or vindictiveness, what you're doing is you're robbing from your own dharma, your ability to fulfill your own uh, trajectory as a human being. So your fulfillment of your dharma is being directly affected by fears, neuroses, hatreds, and things like that. And also by obsessions, like if you're madly in love with the wrong person, same thing. Now, or a politician or a political cause. Now, going forward, remember, fulfilling your dharma is more important than anything else, okay? Your dharma is not to be terrified of getting a vaccine. Your dharma is not to be terrified of a police state. Your dharma is to fulfill that regardless. Just like Kafka, that's how, Solzhenitsyn. If you read those books, they're about fulfillment of dharma, really, in the most appalling totalitarian regimes. It happens, it can be done. And we're not facing anything as bad as that. So, it's bad, but it's not as bad as that. So, therefore, fulfilling your dharma is still very attainable if you want it. If you're on the internet all day long, you see, I share things about COVID-19 numbers being dodgy and fake news stories about it, but I don't share them in a sense of fear. I share them as like almost like, oh, look at these fuckers again. Like it's almost like pub talk. Just these fucking assholes again. It's like that. It's not like, oh my god, oh my god. It's none of that stuff. That's when you're not fulfilling your dharma. And excuse me. And when you fulfill your dharma that way, your life becomes a lot easier. Things come easier to you. You know, you it's the whole thing of who you're meant to be. Like the mantra I made, when I wrote Puzzling People, living well is the best revenge. Let natural law take care of them. That was a mantra I wrote years ago when I was growing up. Living well is the best revenge. Let natural law take care of them. And natural law does take care in the end. Regardless, it does. It does sort it out in the end. And that's all that matters. Injustice will happen. Oppression will happen. But it's don't make it any worse for yourself by becoming a physical, tangible insurgent. Become a consciousness insurgent. And just say, yes, sir, I'll wear the face mask to get on the plane. I'm wearing the plane, just sit there going, it's fucking stupid. I can't wait to be on the beach. I can't wait to go visit our ancient site. I can't wait to visit my girlfriend. I can't wait to visit my husband, my family. That's how you do it. Not, protesting when you get on the plane. I refuse to wear a face mask. That's like all the free men of the land mentality. And look where they got. Nowhere. Swinging from ropes around their necks. Lost their families and everything. You cannot take on the beast, the system that well. You cannot take on a system that big. Now, there's another thing. Like, someone posted a meme today that in the 1300s, men went to war when somebody tried to impose taxation on them. Nowadays, they're willingly accepting it. Now, people say men are so soft now, which is true compared to men back then, for lots of reasons. But look how long it took them to make men soft. 700, 800 years. It took them that long. It's an indication of how strong we really are. So inside the lamb or the sheep, in some, in many men, not all, because lots of men are weak. I'd say 50% of men are weak and cowards and frightened, and they hide it behind anxiety and being depressed and things like that, and pretending to be suicidal. But it's just a mask for weakness, and where the other men may be a wolf inside that sheep. But they don't, just because they're a wolf inside that sheep doesn't mean they jump out with all fangs blazing and all teeth blazing. Remember, the wolf, like the fox, is cunning. It stalks, it moves, it walks, it monitors, it observes. It can escape. It knows ways in and out of places. It knows who its tribe is and who its tribe isn't. And by God, if you don't know who your tribe is by now, you never will. You never will. And that's why we say, like, they've destroyed community in terms of neighborhood. Now, I know there are people that live in very nice neighborhoods where there's no one screaming to the police that someone took 2 walks a day and everyone's nice, but usually that's quite common. In the neighborhoods where people gang up on a neighbor who didn't, like that woman in England who didn't clap for the healthcare workers when she should have, that only takes one or two busybodies, curtain twitchers or pearl clutchers, to weaponize the rest of the street. It only takes two cunts to weaponize a community. And they use fear, intimidation, blackmail. It only takes two cunts to do that. And it doesn't take any more than that. And those creatures who do these things are not doing it for your benefit. In fact, if you join the mob, you'll be destroyed by it. Everyone on that street now who thought they were so great shaming that woman on social media are now the biggest share of cunts in England. Or if not now, will be in time, when people say, can you believe that street is down around the corner is the street where they all shame the woman on Facebook for not clapping the NHS people and said her kids deserve to die because she doesn't deserve medical treatment. And then say, yeah, it was that cunt, that's her name, it was this asshole, it was that piece of shit. Like I said, living well is the best revenge. Let natural law take care of them.